Hello everyone. My name is Taddy and I welcome you, or should I say, I welcome you back if that's the case, to this channel. I am an artist here on YouTube. I have been more active on my pages on Canva and mostly TikTok, but I wanted to come back to YouTube and record a sketchbook update like I used to do back in the day. I did a couple of these last year, and this one is not going to be much different. It's mostly going to be a long, rambly, chatty video and an excuse to just talk about my characters and the characters that I share with Candy, as well as going through my art journey. This book is not particularly old. I've had this book from April to August of 2024, and I have just completed my first sketchbook of 2025. But I just figured I would take some time and show you what I've been up to and the work I've been doing. So before we get into it, I just want you to know that this is going to be a rambly video. Like I said, there will be a lot of talk about the characters that we share, and it's going to be a rather long-winded one. So please, if you'd like to join me on this journey, grab a hot beverage of your choice and let's get started. I'm not going to spend too much time on these. These were just two post-its, a couple of post-its that I put on here for two of our characters. I will say more of each individual character as we continue in the book, but let's just say that these are Gadriel, Catherine, she's also right here, Fenno, and Layla. Whereas these here were some ideas for a starting title, for the beginning title of a visual novel that we're working on. But this is besides the point. Let's just get into the actual drawings where I'll be able to talk more about the characters. Alright, we're starting off strong, and these are our characters, Lessa and Daeyun. They've been around for a very long time, and they are the protagonists of a series called Kave Kanem. However, they also belong to a larger structured story called Dawn and Dynasty. They are two very old characters. Old friends of this channel will remember them, and there isn't too much to say about them as there is, but I will just say that they are incredibly adorable. And at this point, I think I was struggling with my art style. I was trying to look at new poses and new ways of showing characters interacting, and this is what came of it. Then we have two different pictures. These are relatively new characters, or rather, they are characters that have been around for a while and have now been reworked. These are Danaeus and Aristeus. In our universe of Dawn, they are the god of the moon and the god of the sun, respectively. However, Aristeus was born a god, and Danaeus was born a human, who was then turned into a god by Aristeus, who fell in love with him when they were children. I won't say too much about the lore when it's just pictures of them interacting. You can clearly see the type of relation they have, but I will say more as more pictures come along with a little bit more background, because I am more of a fan with pictures that have backgrounds in them. But again, at this point in time, I was struggling to say. I was having a hard time with putting together a style that I wanted, so I just went for a very plain background. Then we have Uriel over here. I was trying to practice Sphinx cats naturally. This is actually Uriel. He is the god of the underworld, and the cat he's holding is actually Reziel. It is his very loyal lover who can shapeshift, and that is why he's in the shape of a cat. I think it's also because I think that Sphinx cats have a bad reputation. A lot of people will call them ugly or not so good looking, and kind of strange, but I think they're very lovely, very cute, really affectionate, and I thought it would be cute. It really fits the aesthetic between these two, of the cat being affectionate and cute while also having that strange, godlike, but still creepy type of aspect to him. And I think I referenced, a lot of these will have reference pictures from Pinterest, so you may see some of them in there. I needed a while, like a little bit of time, until I stopped doing that. So these two, these are Adonis and Esther. I really like them. So I will put their lore into perspective. Esther is what I would consider to be the version that we have in our universe of the Grim Reaper. He helps the souls of people walk or get to the underworld. He accompanies them there. And one of the people whom he has to accompany is Adonis. Adonis is actually a journalist. However, he is the protagonist of another story that we have called The Life After Death of Adonis Perkins Thorley, which is this character, Adonis. Yes, he is named after Adonis, the huntsman. However, what happens is Esther is not the god of death in the sense that he can interfere with death. However, he cannot interfere with destiny, while he can talk to the incarnation of destiny. And naturally, he falls in love with Adonis once they meet, even though he knows that something tragic is going to happen to him. And so when relationship blossoms, it becomes a really beautiful story of acceptance, but also the desire to have justice for Adonis. And much like Aristeas, Esther too ends up having keeping Adonis with him in the afterlife and in the underworld. This one, I won't spend too much time on it. This is just Lessa and Daeyun and their fiend children, these little creatures. I'm pretty sure in the reference picture they were babies or children. And I was having probably a bad drawing day, so I didn't know what to draw. And since they do treat these two like their children, I just drew this. So it's Lessa, Daeyun, D'Artagnan and Levi that we will just call fiends, because that's what we refer to them in Cave Canem. They are strange, otherworldly beings that take the name of fiends. Then more Lessa and Daeyun, again, just cuddly pictures. And instead, this is Fred and Fab. Some of you might remember Fred and Fab, Frederick and Fabrizio. I used to draw them a lot. When I first started this channel, we hadn't done much with them. We repurposed them in HIE. They are still in HIE, which was our webcomic Happiness Is You. I'll put something here so that you can like recognize it if any of you have read it. We are reworking that, and we are reworking their story as well. But I think this was in the time where we were wondering if we wanted their other selves, so their demon and angel selves, to have more of a prominent placement in the stories that we currently have. So I reworked all of that and made sure that they had a place of that, and we did do that. And I was also somewhat testing how to insert more of the bodies and pictures, and I actually quite like to draw this part, like the bottom of the body, the bottom of the legs, if it's cut off. But it does also have a strange effect on me because it looks like it is cut off, so I'm just strange, so don't worry about it. Most of the pictures in here are also all pencil and or marker. I think that I am slowly rediscovering my love for pencil, Lessa and Daeyun. I won't say too much about their relationship, but I will say that there is a part in their story in Cave Canem where they feel attracted to each other, they like each other. Lessa starts to fall in love with Daeyun. However, there are things that have happened in the past that they currently do not remember, and this leads them to have a few misunderstandings, none of which end up in fights. I don't think that we'd be able to handle that, but it still creates the opportunity for little cute scenes to happen, such as this one, so them just exchanging a little kiss. This is Adonis and Esther, again, Esther and Adonis, I should say it the other way around. I figured this is in more of a placement where Adonis is more aware of who Esther is, but regardless of that, they still have a little bit of they need a moment to realize exactly what their placement in history and in the lore is, so they themselves need to figure out their positions, and I wanted this to kind of be the scene where that happens. This one is really interesting. So on the 8th of April, if I remember correctly, again, I would have to check because I couldn't see this. This wasn't an eclipse that I could see, but in the US there was and I think over the Gulf of Mexico, over Mexico, either way, over the continent of America, there was a solar eclipse, and Aristeas and Danaus, being the god of the sun and the god of the moon respectively, would be in our lore part of this event happening. So I decided to draw this and color it in markers and just show them hugging and holding onto each other to be the cause of the eclipse rather than anything else. And I thought it was really cute. I should have put a sheet of paper over this just so that the marker wouldn't have bled through, but I didn't think of it. But I do think I have a scanned version of this at least, so I helped myself with that. These two are Daniel and Patrick. They are from another story called Dome. I don't know if I can show this type of picture, so I'm going to go on and then I will talk more about them in the upcoming pictures with them instead. But I can talk about Lessa and Deyun a little bit. This is a specific scene in Kave Kanem where Lessa and Deyun have spent a day together. Again, they do not fully remember each other from previous happenings in their lifetime, but Lessa starts to grow really attached to Deyun, and he believes Deyun to have someone else as a love interest, but he doesn't see this person and he never speaks to this third person. So in one of the scenes, he tries to understand to get to the bottom of the situation, and I thought this could be the scene after he comforted him after a long night or just a long day at work, and I thought it would be a really cute scene to illustrate. I really like illustrating situations between characters and scenes. Sometimes it's nice to just have like portraits, but it's a lot nicer to draw the scenes when they're having something to interact about. It's really nice. I really like it and I enjoy it. So these two characters are part of the story that we have called Kote, also known as Esmerin. We are working on renaming it, but they are King Hamalio Matriel of the Kingdom of Harlarak, the Kingdom of the Glousy, which is a race that I made up, made mostly of people with blue auras and or ice and water powers, as this universe is heavily based on color, light, and aura based on said color and light and natural element that is usually associated with that color. And he is holding onto his newlywed wife Delira, who is a princess of the Empire of Shasan, which is a nation way further down the west part of the world of Esmerin than Harlarak is. Hopefully I will remember to put him up somewhere around here so you can see it. Which is more heavily based on orange and red auras. So she ends up moving away from her kingdom to marry him, and they are very much in love with each other. His kingdom was newly rebuilt, hers has a longer history, and she comes from a family that is led on by a matriarch, but she very much wishes to have a marriage and to live her life happily with a family, and when they meet, they become instantly attracted to one another, and I just wanted to show how cute they were because they are a comfort couple. Honestly, I quite like them. I'm going to talk about this picture first, and then I'm going to talk about this. This is Gadril Hadraniel. He is another Glousy, so he belongs to the Kingdom of Harlarak. However, he is a sorcerer, a necromancer, and also the captain of the Royal Navy of another kingdom called the Kingdom of Gredren. Now, the Kingdom of Gredren is not necessarily the best place to be in, and it is technically the kingdom that invaded the land of the Glousy, Harlarak. However, there are two different positions on how to rebuild the kingdom. Gadril is very vengeful. He wants to make the kingdom pay for what they've done to him and his people, whereas Hamaliel is a lot more calm, so when he becomes nominated as the new king, he has a different approach. But Gadril is a lot more violent in that sense, and I wanted to show just how much he relies on his power and how attached he is to it. I'm pretty sure I referenced an ice skater for this pose, and I really enjoyed drawing this. I really love drawing magic and anything related to very fancy curve-like drawings that have poses that are really smooth. It's just one of my favorite things to do. I quite enjoy it. These two instead are Minerva or Minnie and Ramiel. They belong to the underworld type of gods. They are very different compared to the others. Minnie works as a secretary for the god of the underworld, so for Uriel, and Ramiel works as a messenger angel, so one of the lower rank angels. However, because he has to deliver so many messages, he often ends up in the office where Minnie is, and this allows him to talk to her a lot. And they were just having a very, very cute set of interactions, and we figured that they probably liked each other. So they're together and they're being really cute about it. And I very much enjoy them. I really like their bantering. Okay, I won't spend too much time on these. I bought one of these cheap marker sets off of Amazon, I think, because a lot of my markers are dying out. I tend to use them and overlay them quite a bit, so I just got one. I think this was also because I wanted to see what set would be good to buy for Inktober eventually, even though I ended up doing it differently this year. And this is just a colored version of the picture that you saw at the beginning of the sketchbook. You'll see a bunch of these little post-it notes that I usually do these when I am either in a bad mood, so either something happened or something very silly was part of the discussion that I had with Candy or in general with anyone, even at work, and it will cause me to somewhat express my feelings through these post-it notes that I will then keep. To be fair, I didn't really keep them for a while. I used to like draw on them and then throw them away or toss them, but I keep seeing people keeping them in their sketchbook, so I've been trying to save them up since last year, just as little keepsakes. More lesson na yun. This is a picture from a sketchbook that I completed before this one, and I think I was just testing the markers that I got with the set I was mentioning it. Again, I do remember this being a post that I saw online and that I was trying to recreate. I remember a lot of these not taking a lot of time, but none of them were really fully satisfying me. They were fun to make, same with this one, with this pose that I saw of them in the tub. I enjoyed recreating the pose. It was fun putting Adonis and Esther in it, but I still didn't really know what it was that was missing from my style. I did fix Esther's hair because Candy told me that his hair was actually supposed to be a little bit shorter, but I just give everyone extremely long hair for no reason. But I was still struggling with how I wanted things to be done. Over here, I started to get a little bit better. I started to like try and understand exactly what it was that I wanted to tackle, but I was still far away. I was focusing more onto coloring and using the mixed media. So before I did this, I tried to study the characters a little bit more. So these are Daniel and Patrick. I used the pose for reference, but I realized that it wasn't working out because one, I couldn't fully understand the anatomy of the pose, especially of the arms, and two, I don't like the way that the facial features are placed, and three, the proportions are all strange, as well as the foreheads. But with this one here, I think I can talk a little bit more about the actual drawing and how it looks, and also a little bit more about the character, because the story that this character is from is called Dome or Out of the Dome, and it is a very particular story. It's both a coming of age and a military alternate universe type of story, meaning that the asset of the world is completely different. Again, if I have a map of this world, so the one that this character is from instead, I'll hover it over the screen right now. But this character in particular is called Daniel, and he is a commander of the army of the little country that you see at the bottom called the Embassy of Lahirst. And there is a lot of elements that I've taken from either history or personal elements that I included in the social structure of this universe that basically centers around the coming of age of this character as well as the coming of age of his family unit. He is a son to a single mother, and he is a secret child, one that she keeps without telling anybody else in her family, and who then becomes a object of discussion because his relatives find out, his uncle finds out about his existence, and then his uncle and Daniel become found family. And it's a very interesting story. Him and his uncle are at odds in pretty much every decision that is about social issues and politics, but they still love each other dearly. And I think there are many ways of discussing family topics as well as politics and history, so putting together some of my passions, and that's why this story came to be. Over here you can see the various steps I took. This was the original pencil sketch I did, and this was the more refined sketch, and I still think that these are okay. They're not bad, but considering I ended up changing the way that his reference looks, I believe that he looks quite young here compared to what he's supposed to be. He looks quite young, but this was a redraw, so I will put the original picture of his portrait, of his military portrait, and I do think that compared to his original portrait, this one does look a lot better. Considering my skill at the time, I do think it wasn't bad, but I definitely could do better, and I did better afterwards. These ones I won't spend much time on because I don't like them. It's Lesson on Dancing, and these two were Yuya and Naoya. As you can see here, I didn't even start darkening the lines because I didn't like the way that they had come out. This was for Yuya's birthday on the 22nd of April, but I just was having problem with the heads, so I went on and I decided to pull through and continue drawing and practicing. There was a lot of art block during these moments, but I do think that it was worth it because the sketches that I worked on now are more worth it. They are of a skill level that I appreciate. Now, this one is Gadriel again. I talked about him before. I don't think that this picture does him as much justice as the other one. I wanted to try and express his cunning side. He's definitely a type of character that will try to manipulate those that get in his way so that he can get things done his way. And there is a specific picture that I have made quite a few years ago now, maybe in 2021, that I feel like really shows that aspect of him. And I feel like that really captures the essence of Gadriel, but over here in these ones you can't really quite get that essence, and I'm trying to show it and be more consistent with how he acts and how he is. Frederick and Fabrizio. I like this one quite a bit. This is technically a redraw of an old picture that I did of Frederick and Fabrizio back in the day, so probably over 10 years ago. If I can find it, I will put it in this video. But it's just the two of them being really cute, looking at the viewer. Again, Fab is more of like a demon character and Fred is more of an angel character. I won't say too much about them because, again, the lore of their story is a little bit more complicated and I need to rework around it, but I do think that the picture came out really cute and I also colored it. Plus, I didn't have access to my tools while I was doing this. I just had one mechanical pencil, which I kind of just use a mechanical pencil and then a couple graphite pencils that are like darkened to fill in large areas, but I do think this came out quite nicely. And yeah, there you go. This is the colored version of it, and I had limited colors. I'm pretty sure I had the colors of that set that I swatched earlier in the book, But I do think it's all right. I think some of the colors are off, like Fred's hair is a little bit too dark and Fab's skin is not exactly the right shade that it's supposed to be, so the undertone is a little bit off, and the clothes are definitely off because I didn't have any purples, like violet purples. But overall, it's all right. It's pretty cute for what it's supposed to be. I do like it, and I was happy to redraw something that used to make me so happy when I was really young. Daniel and Patrick, again, having problems with drawing people kissing at this point of my art block journey, so I won't say too much about this other than they deserve a redraw of this picture. Then Fred and Fab. I think this was inspired by one of the scenes in Happiness Is You, and then I looked for a few poses, and this is what I found of a couple just looking at videos or looking at posts and sitting together while looking at them. I am quite satisfied with the way that Fred's face came out to be, like Frederick's face. But Fab's is a little bit strange. I think I was trying to put as much of his features in the picture as possible, and it just didn't turn out the way that it was supposed to. It's a little bit strange, not the nicest. So I do apologize to him. Okay, this features Gadgel and Catherine. I think I did a better job with the reference this time. I saw it and I think that I was able to work on it a little bit better. Now, I do really like Catherine and Gadrel. So I've talked about Gadrel before, while Catherine is an elf, as you can tell. However, she is a lot more... she's definitely more prone to face-to-face combat, so hand-to-hand combat, than she is magic and controlling her aura in that sense. So she seeks out Gadrel because of his fame, should I say. He's renowned to be a very good necromancer, and she looks for him so that she may learn how to use magic better. However, he is terrible at hand-to-hand combat, but is extremely skilled with magic, and so they begin to compensate, and while he teaches her secrets, he also pulls her into his political intrigues and to his betrayals, and along the way she starts to like him. The issue is Gadrel is very manipulative to people that he meets. Not Catherine. He's actually very interested in Catherine and believes her to be very beautiful and likes her right away. But with the other people that they meet, because of his position, he is very cunning, and so she obviously thinks that he may be lying to her and that he has no interest in her. So they have a little bit of a slight enemies to lovers trope, but unpopular opinion, I don't always like the enemies to lovers trope. I prefer it when it's more tease to lovers trope. I'm not really one of those fiends for enemies to lovers trope. All right. Daniel and Patrick. I was trying to practice a lot of Daniel and Patrick because I really couldn't get their bodies right, and this is another example of absolutely terrible body proportions. Lessa and Daeyeon. I was trying to learn how to properly draw Daeyeon's hair better because his hair went through a lot of transformations, and I wanted this to be slightly younger than in summer. I think I was yearning for summer. It was the 1st of May here, so I was yearning for a break because I was working as a teacher at this point and things were not going well in school. So I think I was just yearning for a vacation, and that's what came out of it. Okay, Daniel and Patrick colored. Same issue. I do like these colors. I think that I was also studying the type of color palette that I wanted for their skin and for their clothes to be there, but I couldn't really find it. I couldn't really like it as much as I wanted to. I tried to like it more, but it just wasn't doing much for me. And these two instead are Damien and Claudia. Honestly, I need to draw them more, and I need to do a better explanation of their lore on a better picture because this one is terrible. The pose and the original pose that I saw, I'm sure, was absolutely stunning compared to this. I just executed it extremely poorly, and I apologize for that. things are getting a little bit better here. I started slowly coming out of the block with this. So I have this picture of Daniel and Patrick. I recently colored this digitally. I will put the picture up if I can find it for this video. And even though the proportions on Patrick's forehead are not the best, I still think that the picture is quite cute and quite nice. These two are Gadriel and Catherine that I've explained a little bit of earlier. I'm gonna say a little bit about Daniel and Patrick, since I didn't really explain anything with each picture that I come and explain of them. I just kind of say that it's ugly and move on, which is unfair to them. So as I've said, Daniel becomes a commander in the army of his country of Lahirst, whereas Patrick comes from a different country named Sklops, and he comes in as a helper to the military. And because he is from a foreign country, he is unaware of some of the social issues that are present in the embassy. And even though a lot of people would not recommend interacting with Daniel or people that come from the same area as him, which we could call it the same region as him, Patrick is unaware of this, and when they tell him this, he doesn't really fully understand why. And if anything, he becomes quite intrigued in Daniel, and they are very cute together. They start going out, and they have this really specific golden retriever black cat type of energy that I adore, and they are very cute and I enjoy them a lot. More Daniel. This is not how his hair is supposed to look like in color at all, but again, a lot of my markers were dead and I was trying to figure out how to replace them, how to have a color palette that would make sense, and so this is what I came up with. But this is child Daniel with his mother's older brother, so his Uncle Orif, that he calls Uncle Oria. So Orif was unaware that Daniel existed as a human being until he was 6 years old, and while he likes him right away, even though he's surprised about this existence, Daniel, on the other end, is extremely fond of him. He's extremely excited to meet him, and he becomes infatuated with his uncle right away, and he's happy to have an expanding family. So I just drew them together. I think that there's something wrong with the proportions, but it was really cute and I really enjoyed the interactions. And I think this is the part of the book where I slowly, yes, I do believe so, where I slowly start to get out of my art block and things start going in a good direction again. So this is a redraw of two redraws that I did previously. There is a sketchbook tour on this channel of sketchbook, I think 49 or 50, where you can see me trying to redraw this picture of our character Leonidas. This is for his profile, and I just couldn't really get the energy of this character. I couldn't get him right at all, and here I just sat and I erased this picture so many times until I finally actually started liking it, and this is what came of it. I'll try to put the original reference here if I can find it, so you can just see the sheer improvement of the way that Leonidas looked. But in general, I decided to go for a slightly more realistic style that also went well with, I suppose you could say, more vintage anime style, so the 90s and the early 2000s, I believe. I do have this on hand, which is from 2021, where you can see how his first ever reference was and how he looked versus how he looks now, and I am very happy with this improvement. I think that the expression is still there with a little bit more of how he's actually supposed to be. As per the lore about him, Leonidas is a bookmaker from another country in our world, one that is the same as Daniel and Patrick's, as well as Vogel, for those who are familiar with Vogel. And he is, like I said, a bookmaker who lives in the in the country of Rifshire in the city of Bridwood. Now, the city of Bridwood has a very tyrannical and extremely impoverished setting, and even though people try their best to live a normal life with the means they have, they are rationed for everything that they have, from water to supplies to food. And even though the situation is quite dire, Leonidas, who lives with his grandmother Rhea, doesn't really wish to change things. He's definitely, he's not an anti-hero because he completely understands that the situation is wrong, but at the same time, he's definitely the type of protagonist that doesn't really want to do much. He's definitely not the chosen one, and the event that sets the story in motion, which his story is called Sins of the Gods, the event that sets his story in motion is the arrival in the woods of a very peculiar stranger who he will find out is actually named Jamie, who ends up staying at Leonidas's house, and he himself instead will try to change things because he wants to help him instead, just the way that Leonidas helps him. Then there is more Lessa and Dayan and more Leo and Jamie, or rather Jamie makes an appearance alongside Leo. I won't say too much about this picture. I was just trying to draw more cuddly Lessa and Dayan. I think that Lessa's facial features are completely wrong, so I won't even say anything about it, but I was just trying to practice the proportions of these two because Lessa is quite tall and very built, whereas Dayan is really small and dainty, and it's really hard to draw them together sometimes, which is why I will try to resort to poses, but then the dramatic difference in size is not easily depicted in poses as well, so it's a little bit of an issue as it is. But here we have Leo and Jamie. This is Jamie, the character that I mentioned when I showed you Leo's reference. While Leo is a bookmaker from Rifshire, Jamie comes from a completely different plane of their world. And within their story, so within Sins of the Gods, there are elements known as portals. They are doors that allow people to travel from one area to the other. So Jamie has never been to Bridwood, Rifshire before, and Leo has never left Bridwood. So when the two of them meet, there is this really cute exchange between the two of them because Jamie's attracted to Leo right away, whereas Leo is very scared of interacting with Jamie because their relationship would be frowned upon in Bridwood, whereas it wouldn't be frowned upon where Jamie is from. They have other problems there, such as even worse corruption than there is in Leo's place, and more like social issues with social classes types of situations. And same here. Jamie is extremely sensible and really adorable. He is a little bit reckless, but he falls for Leo right away. And even though he is a little bit more of a petty thief in his original story setting, so where he's originally from, he's a really good person with a heart of gold. And he wants to help Leo right away. They have a really adorable set of interactions when they meet right away, and I really like them. I want to see them be together and be happy because they're really cute. More Lessa and Daeyeon. This is just them dancing together. I think that it was just a day where I wanted to use markers, because when it comes to coloring traditionally, I know that sometimes you need a lot of shades because a lot of cheap markers don't have the right shade or the pastel shades or good colors for blonde hair, which seems to be like a very a thing that doesn't get mentioned that much, but I really enjoy coloring with alcohol markers, and so I just decided to make a copy of the sketch I've made of them dancing together and color this quickly, and I think that they're really cute, really lovely. Next, okay, it's just a double page spread of Leo and Jamie. Like I said, this one is just a copy and a colored version of the picture you just saw of the pencil sketch of Leo and Jamie having breakfast together. And then this instead is just them having a little peck, having a little kiss, just teasing each other, or rather, I guess, just before or after a kiss that they've shared, because they are doing a little nose-to-nose booping action there, which I think is really cute, and I really love them. Okay, so now we're going into Dome territory again, but this is more about the prequel of Dome rather than Dome itself. So at the beginning of the book, I showed you the other character called Daniel. Maybe I'll insert a picture in the corner just to remind you of who he is. These two are his parents, and while this is not unknown or anything, it is unknown to him who his father is. This is a colored version of the sketch. But his parents are called Yeva and Leonid, and the issue with them is, or the situation, the backstory with them is that they are from a country that was originally only inhabited by those of her ethnicity. So it's a land that was mostly filled with people that are like her and belonging to her culture, and it was then invaded almost 150 years prior by another country called the Empire. I won't be saying all of the names, I might put the map again, but it was invaded by the Empire, and he instead, Leonid, is the son of one of the military personnel of the Empire. Naturally, these people are not the original invaders, but I think it goes without saying that they will be, of course, seen partly as invaders, especially because they install a very tyrannical rule over the lands that they invade. So when they start ruling over the country, they decide to divide it into two. One area which is inhabited by the original people that live there, and another area which is inhabited by those that have invaded it. However, these two, Yeva and Leonid, end up meeting. They meet at a local bakery to buy bread. And even though she's originally somewhat not scared of him, but she definitely doesn't trust him, they start hanging around, they start talking to one another, and they slowly start to fall in love. So Daniel is born from the both of them. And instead, now there is a double-page spread of Yeva and her older brother Orif. Like I said before, there is two sections of the story, and Orif is, of course, Yeva's older brother, and he helps her take care of Daniel after he goes to see her. But when they are very young, as you can see, they have quite a little bit of an age gap, almost 10 years age gap. So she ends up growing up having him as almost like a father figure, and he protects her and helps her. But when he discovers the love story between her and Leonid, he is very upset, very disappointed, and so they end up parting ways, which is why they then meet again afterwards when she's had the baby. But he's very proud of her, he really loves her, and she really loves him back, and it's a very heartbreaking relationship between the two of them, and I really like them. I think they are adorable. More of them. This is Yeva with her little baby Daniel. I think I saw this pose on Pinterest, and it was just so soft, so sweet, and she ends up being a very loving mother. So even though she has him quite young, she ends up loving him to bits, and she wouldn't have it any other way. She wouldn't want her family to be any different. So I wanted to just depict the phases of her life in a way. So there's very young her, slightly older her, I'm supposing when she turns 18, and then her with her baby. And then I wanted to have a mention of her and Orif again, just probably looking at somebody outside of their house, sitting on the patio, having a little bit of a chuckle at those that walk by, and just, you know, having those little brother and sister shenanigans, because I think that she loves him very much and realizes how much of a protector he is to her. Okay, now we're switching to other characters entirely. These are Hamaliel and Dalera again. I saw this really pretty pose of this mermaid style dress on this model, and it was just so cute. I thought that it would be so fitting for Delira, especially because of the contrast between the original culture where she's from, so the empire where she's from, and then Hamaliels, which is more based on water and ice. And so I just wanted to draw them together because they are very lovely, and I really appreciate their relationship and their love story. Whereas over here, we have Daeyun and Dahlia. Some of you, if you've been around for a very long time on this channel, might remember Dahlia. She used to be one of the characters that I introduced here when I was still a teenager, and she still has a very prominent role in both Dynasty and Kave Kanem, and I am not exactly sure if I wanted this to be Dynasty or Kave Kanem. Since her hair is long, I suppose I wanted it to be their high school years. She basically keeps teasing Daeyun about being together with Lessa and just always being around him and being a bother to him, basically, which couldn't be further away from the truth, but she's the type of person that wishes to manipulate and instill insecurities in other people. Then there is just post-it notes. Clearly I was sick. I think I got a very high fever during this time last year. It might have been. I think it was really high in degrees, so I just drew from the bed, and all I could draw on was post-it notes. And then when I felt better, I drew Yeva and baby Daniel again. I think this was a really cute pose I found on Pinterest or Google, and I was like, yes, I want to draw this as Yeva and baby Daniel because they are lovely. But I was still clearly struggling with art block. You can see throughout this entire book that it's just a constant struggle with art block. Even this is just a double page spread of a character called D'Artagnan Hambletone. Now he is technically the human form of the tiny little being that you saw at the beginning on Lessa's shoulders. He is a fiend, so he's somewhat of a demon, I should say. He's a demon that attaches itself to a person's mind. Let's just word it this way. And this is his original form. This is how he looked like when he was a human. He lived throughout the 12th century, so that's why he looks like this. And this is how he looks like now. So to this day, with his iconic red suit, I know you cannot see it colored, but it is red, bright red. And I just wanted to draw him in a typical day inside Lessa's mind, so inside the palace that he builds for himself inside Lessa's head. And I just wanted to test out some more dynamic poses and some pencil shading, but again, still a little bit afflicted with the art block. More doodles and more art block. This is Orif and Tiny Daniel. He looks terrible here, like Daniel looks absolutely horrible, and these two are Raphael and Gabriel. They are related to Uriel, the god of the underworld. They are his older sister and older brother. They have a very cheeky relationship between the two of them. They are very fun, very teasy, and Raphael is my favorite Uchna sibling. That's their last name. He's my favorite. He's really fun to draw. I should draw him more because this picture does not do him justice in the slightest. Uriel again. This ought to have been around the 6th of June or the 7th of June, where I was trying to draw a picture of Uriel as the god of the underworld, as he is. And I think that I resketched this throne digitally like 6 times, and it just wouldn't come out. In the end, in the next sketchbook that I started, so the one right after this one, I had better luck with the positioning and the proportions of both him and the throne. But I guess I was also trying out a new hairstyle for him because he had bangs across his forehead, and now he kind of has these curtain bangs situation going on, so there's that. Over here, we have Orif and Nadini. Orif is Daniel's uncle and Yeva's older brother, and Nadini is a shopkeeper that lives not too far from Yeva and Daniel. He ends up having a little bit of a crush on her as soon as he meets her, but they don't really get together or get married until later on, which I think is really cute. Sometimes you need a little bit of a depiction of not elderly love, but definitely love of older characters, because they are not either teenagers or young adults. This is, I'm actually really sad. I did try to put protection of wax paper and it did help because look how much it caught, but it's still somewhat passed onto this set of Daniel and Orif. There is this situation that happens between Daniel and Orif when Daniel is a teenager where they don't talk as much or they end up having many fights, whereas they are very, very close when he's still really young and when he becomes his primary caretaker. And I think it's really sweet. I love that he loves him even though they have disagreements, and that he thinks of him like his own son. So I wanted to show more of their relation, and I think that this is just a really cute picture, just a really cute interaction between the two of them. This is the same picture as before, and it's just Yeva and baby Daniel being colored in. I actually had a lot of fun coloring this hair. I think that she's incredibly fun to draw, even though coloring this amount of hair is not exactly the easiest fit, especially for promotional illustrations or comic scenes that will come up eventually, but I do think that she's really, really pretty, and I like that she made a little mini-me version of herself with her son. I think it's adorable. I like it. Leonid's jeans didn't even really try to get onto Daniel. It's just all her. Ooh, there's something. Oh, okay. I was experimenting with chibis. I didn't know exactly how to draw them, how I wanted to draw them, so I just decided that I would draw them with these really big eyes and white pupils. I usually only give my glossy characters white pupils, but in this case I thought that they would come out so cute, just cute and chubby and looking like little dolls, so I just went on ahead and gave them this strange version of their pupils. And this is Frederick, and this is Lessa, of course. This is Lessa and Daeyeon again, but I had seen a fan art of Meg and Hercules, I believe, and I just wanted to draw them in a similar position because they are very similar to Meg and Hercules, but their relationship is different since Daeyeon is not nearly as sassy with Lessa as Meg is with Hercules. But I just wanted to have a cute little cozy illustration of them, and I think I was by the sea when I did this, so it was incredibly nice and fun to do, and I think I was getting a little bit better with the hair, with Daeyeon's hair, which was the main reason for me to try and draw these types of poses and these types of pictures. I wanted to get better at their features and at their look, and I think that I'm starting to get there by this point in the sketchbook because we're getting halfway through it. Slowly but surely we're getting there. All right, I will be quick on this because I'm not sure exactly how much I can show of this picture. These are two iterations of characters from Lessa's family line, and they also belong to the story called Dynasty, but in this case it's not Lessa and Daeyeon, but it's Andre and Dagmar. And I will say that their setting is closer to the 1940s, 1943, 44. So something happens in their storyline, and obviously Andre is completely devastated by what happens. This was a joke. I'm sorry, I'm gonna skip over the said pictures because I never truly know what to comment about them. There is a lot of lore related to it, but I will not spend too much time on it. I don't want the video to be too depressing, so I'm gonna move on. This is a chibi picture of Lessa and his biological father, Nikolai. We were trying to change something in their story because Lessa has a really strange relationship with his father in The Sims, because we created our characters in The Sims, Candy and I. He seems to really like him, but in the story they don't get along and he tends to get quite violent. So we were working back and forth what exactly the truth was or where the truth lied, and so I ended up just doing these little silly doodles, just thinking of how the situation would have been if they got along and maybe something happened along the way, but if originally they were just getting along. So he's over there playing Game Boy Advance with him and, you know, doing the level for him like any dad would. And this, I don't remember fully if this was Dagmar and Andre or if it was somebody else, but it is another iteration of the people in Les's family line. Okay, now I was starting to slowly crawl out of my art block. Now this is Gadril again. I've said a little bit about him and I wanted this to be, this is gonna sound extremely specific, but have you ever seen the cutouts that they do in JRPGs like the Tales of series or even the Persona series? I was thinking, how would he look like in that type of cutout, but with the entirety of his portrait being drawn in? Because, you know, usually you would draw the whole thing and then you would cut out either their eyes or them smirking, that type of situation. And this is what came out of it. Again, I wanted to be able to fully show his expression and the way that he looks, and I'm not sure if I gave him as much justice as I wanted to, if he looks as precise as he did in the 2021 picture that I did of him, but I still quite like how he looks in general, so it is a better picture for me than the other ones I've drawn in the book. Whereas over here we have Frederick, and I was trying to rework his clothes when he's in this angel type of form, because he had a very specific set of clothing that I would put on him that is very similar to this, and it's in all of the old pictures that I would draw of him like back 10 years ago, but it just didn't really seem practical. So I was just thinking of how could I make it a little bit more modern, how could I renovate it, how could I make it more functional for what he's supposed to do, because he's not necessarily a messenger angel, he's more of like he's definitely more of a warrior type angel, so if you had to walk around with really flowy clothes, I don't think that it would be good, especially with 3 pairs of wings. So I was just like slowly starting to rework his looks and his clothes. This is where you'll see that this sketchbook is a roller coaster. I liked the pictures that came before these, but this one, for example, I really don't like. Little post-it notes of Frederick, because I had done the new outfit right before, Tatiano, and then Lessa just sleeping. And then we have Percival and Aulos. So now these two are also related to the god of the sun and the god of the moon, so Aristeus and Danaus. This is Percival. He is, technically his name is Perseus, but I will refer to him as Percival because usually nowadays that's what his name is. That's what we refer to him as, and so I will automatically revert back to calling him Percival. But either way, Percy, which is the short version for both Perseus and Percival. Percy is the god of life. He also falls in love with a human, like Aristeus does, but this human, Aulos, ends up dying in war. He's a soldier, he's a trained soldier, and even though Percival is the god of life, he doesn't really have the power to do much about this situation. He wants to help him, he wants to be alright, but he ends up losing him, and this creates animosity between him and Aristeus, who instead turns Danaus into a god. More Orif and Daniel. I should have really put some protective wax paper between these two pictures, but I always forget to do it. Orif and Daniel. I don't remember if I wanted this to be a picture of Orif and Daniel at Daniel's house, or if this was just an alternate vision that he has where they are all growing up in his home country instead and everything is fine, because there's a specific set of scenes where that happens. But either way, just him being a protective, loving dad, uncle, and Daniel holding his little bear, which, fun fact, is actually a bear that is supposed to resemble Orif, but that he got for his sister when she was younger, because another fun fact is that he used to work when he was a teenager in a store that is kind of resembling of Build-A-Bear. I suppose it's just a toy store where you can build your own bears, and so he made her one to remind her of him when he was out and not at home, and so that she would feel safe and protected. This is one of my favorite pictures in this book because I was, again, slowly getting out of the art block, but I definitely overdid it with the shading, and I definitely overdid it with the hatching. But this is Alyosha. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. This is Sasha, not Alyosha. Alyosha is his father. And Sasha is basically Lesa's great-great-great-grandfather. And he is somebody that has a really specific disease related to the fiend demons that I've talked about earlier. So he tends to get ill very easily. He tends to need longer time to recover, and he's a very delicate person, but he's also extremely smart. So he kind of compensates the two things. And this happens to be one situation where he is invited to a birthday party with his valet, and something happens, something terrible happens, and this is where he's starting to scheme against some of the people there, because he's starting to put two and two together about who could have done said terrible things at this party. Then we have Lesa and Dae-yeon. Again, like I've said before, this was another test of how to make them fit together in the same picture, and this was obviously a fail because Dae-yeon is about this short compared to Lesa, but I had him stand all the way up there because I figured that maybe he was standing on some steps, like he was coming down some steps and Lesa was at the bottom of the steps, and so he was waiting for him, which is why he's still taller, even though he's not that much taller compared to how he would normally be. And he was waiting to give him the flowers basically while they are on vacation. This over here is Lucer, or Lucifer. It is a different version of the mythology Lucifer, so of the Christian theology Lucifer. He has some elements that are related to that version, of course, but in this case, he is more seen as just part of the angel lore. This is when he is still part of the angel lore, but you will see that he is missing a pair of wings, because technically he takes off the third pair to give it to Lilith, who is his wife, but these other 4 wings are reattached to him at a second time because originally he didn't have these either. And I think that this was inspired by an idea of him facing off Perseus, the character you've seen before, which is supposed to be his father. But I don't fully remember. I think that I wanted to draw something cool, but it didn't fully come out again. More post-it notes. I don't remember what these were for. I remember this was Baby Lesa. I think I did this because I wanted to test out this version of adding little lines to the eyes to just see how they would come out. And this is him being sick, probably related to the one that I had before, but I didn't have anywhere else to stick it in, so I just stuck it there. And then this is the part where I start to experiment just how I want Aristeas to look like. So this is a version of Aristeas, so the god of the sun, where he has his hair parted the other way, and I wanted him to look like almost like a teenager. So in the in-between parts between his adult era and his childhood era. It's not necessarily the best picture of him, but I do think it's kind of cute. Like, it's salvageable in some parts. I would definitely have to redraw it. But I think this was also the time where I didn't have a lot of my supplies because I was going back and forth between places, between work and university and all of that. So it's a little bit of a rough composition. Then, okay, this was a really cute pose I saw and I wanted to draw it. These are Misha and Farron. Misha is, or Mikhail, he is the older brother of Sasha that you've seen before, and Farron is his wife. They are really, really cute, and they meet when Misha has his 18th birthday party and he invites all of his father's family friends and all of his grandparents' family friends, and Farron is among those, and they hit it off right away, and they are really cute, mostly because the other ones in their family, including Sasha, don't hit it off right away, and they don't find their lovers at their birthday parties when they are introduced to high society, but they do. They find each other, and they are really, really adorable. This one here, I have a kind of a hard time showing, but this was just a little set of doodles that I did again while I was by the sea, and these are Vadim and Cole, again trying the little red pen and the little white pupils for the chibis, and this was just little things that were actually happening while I was there. So there's Vadim blowing up his little donut to float into the sea, and both me and my dad were actually floating like this. So I made Vadim float like that in his own little donut, and Cole is applying sunscreen because I'm always reminding my parents to wear sunscreen, but they just don't listen, and it's like dealing with toddlers, so I just drew Cole putting it on instead. This is Ramiel. This is a really cute chibi of Ramiel, actually. I quite like it. I think he's really cute, and he's really baby looking, if you know what I mean. He looks like the pleading emoji. And he's just really soft and really baby here. I apologize for any noise. There's a soccer game going on, but I didn't have any other time to record this, and I really wanted to put out a video. So I hope that you don't mind. But yes, Ramiel. I wanted to try and color that picture of Lessa and the Yun, and it was going fine, but I don't remember exactly what it was that stopped me. I think that it was Lessa's hair colors that were slowly drying out, and so I waited, and I said that when I eventually would get more markers, I would. I did get a small set of markers, but it didn't come with the right shade, so I still ended up leaving it as it is. But I do think that the skin color is not bad, because originally when I was making this, I thought that it looked absolutely hideous, but I actually quite like it looking back on it now. Okay, so this is the birthday picture that I did for Vadim and Cole. It's actually based off of a Sims screenshot that we have. So Vadim and Cole are from a completely different story. Their story is more of a slice of life coming of age story. Vadim lives with his dad, his older brother, and then his extended family, and Cole lives with his older brother and has both of his parents, but they are just in a different living situation. Vadim is expelled from a lot of schools that he goes to until he finally gets to the same school that Cole attends, and at first Cole isn't quite fond of Vadim. He finds him cute, but he sees that he's a little bit of a rebel. So since Cole is the goody two-shoes person of the school, and he studies really hard, and he's a bookworm and all of those things, he doesn't really like that type of behavior from Vadim, but he ends up realizing that they share a passion for theater and for singing, and so they end up getting together. And this is just a really cute picture that I wanted to do at one of their favorite places called Vapor Waffle, where Vadim usually takes Cole on dates, and where they are having a little birthday celebration because they are born very few days apart. Cole is born on the 26th of June and Vadim is born on the 29th of June, so they are just celebrating together, having a big cake, and we had a cute Sims date with the two of them, and so I wanted to draw the scene. The day right after, or rather the day right after in the drawing timeline here, is Lev's birthday. Now, Lev is Frederick's older brother. He was born on July 1st, and so I just decided to draw him and his little wife, Everly, at the along the streets of the seaside, kind of inspired by the town that I was in. To be fair, they are also really cute. They are two lawyers, and they meet during their last years of university, and then they end up practicing together and moving to this little harbor-like town, and I think that they are super cute and adorable, and I absolutely adore them, and they are just cozy. They are that cozy couple that you just look at and it makes you really warm and fuzzy because they're just gentle. Okay, just really few just really few post-it notes. I think I will go fast. I think that we were talking about Frederick and Lessa because they meet when they are teenagers, and Frederick does not like Lessa in the slightest. They have this really weird one-sided rivalry. Lessa just wants to be Frederick's friend, but Frederick doesn't feel the same. So this is Lucy or Lucifer again. Same here. This is Alizar from Vogel. You might remember him. I won't say too much here because this is just a quick sketch, but he is a character that I really like. He's really cool. I miss him. And then you can see here the actual size difference between Danaeus and Aristeus, which is the same size difference between Lessa and Daeyeon. So you will realize now why it's so hard for me to fully put them together in a picture. Not so much for the height, but for the for how different they are in body type. And this is Daniel. This was during a study pause. I don't know what it was. Oh, I think that it was because we were talking about how Orif, so his uncle, is a sweet tooth, and Daniel has been reprimanding him ever since he was a baby. And so no matter what Daniel does, and no matter how old he is, Orif just sees him as a huge, tall, elongated baby, basically. Next, we have Nikolai and Elena. I actually am quite fond of these characters. They belong to the Dynasty storyline, so they belong to Lessa's family line, for instance, and they are actually his parents. Now, each character of Lessa's family line, or at least a majority of them, has a specific subtitle to their story, which is either a different word or the year in which the story takes place, and for them, it's between 1988 and 1993. Their story is quite interesting. It's the story that comes right before Lessa and Daeyeon's, so right before Dynasty as it is and Kavikanem as it is. But it takes place into the small town of Nevergrad, where Elena and Nikolai both live, and the quiet town is shaken by a strange murder and a body found by the bank of the river that goes through the town that they live in. And of all people, the person that stumbles upon said body is Elena's younger brother, so Lessa's uncle, Genya. And the story then continues within a set of misunderstandings and clues and all elements that will lead to the solution to the case, or the type of solution of the case. They aren't really sure if the solution they get to is the truth of what happened, but they're trying. So I wanted this picture to be a poster type of picture, and I actually really like it. It took me a while to digitally format the background, but I think that I should have colored this. It would have been actually a quite cute picture. So maybe I will in the future. And it's supposed to be right outside of his apartment or his house that she's gone to, and they're looking at the viewer, at the reader, as in assuming that we know something that they know and that maybe we shouldn't know. Next, we have Prince Heliodorus. He is from a completely different realm. He is from the Esmeran realm, where Gadriel and Hamaliel and Dalira are all from, and he is actually the prince of a completely different kingdom, and he is very well known. He's known to be a pretty powerful ruler, and so much so that they thought he was a descendant of the sun god. This is not necessarily true or untrue, to be fair. It's just a rumor that people have been spreading. And even though he is quite strong and he is well known, he isn't necessarily fond of all the royal duties. He likes what he has to do and he wants to do it, but he doesn't really like interacting with all of the other people related to the royal sphere. He sometimes thinks that they are a little bit overwhelming, should I say. Next, we have Frederick. This was I'm not sure if I was having a hard time, so I was just putting my feelings into art, or if it was just because I was reworking part of the story. It might be a little bit of both. This is Frederick when he's a teenager. He goes through a period of time that we can describe as a very deep depression. I know that I joked about it earlier when he was having the rivalry, the one-sided rivalry with Lessa, and this is kind of like the time period right after that, so he feels inferior to a lot of people. He gets a lot of his validation from academic validation, and when Lessa shows up as a contestant in a math competition at their school, he fears that he's found somebody that is more likable than him, nicer than him, and who is also better at academics than he is, and this is a very heavy burden on him, which is why he looks so distant and so sad. He takes it out in ways that he shouldn't take it out, his frustrations, of course. So I just wanted to draw that because it had been a while that I experienced just these types of feelings, and that I had let them out, or that he was able to let them out fully, so I just ended up drawing it. Whereas on a lighter note, this is baby Alyosha, so he is the father of the two boys we've seen earlier, the father of Sasha and the father of Misha when he was just a tiny little baby, and I think that he's just being really, really cute. Although something escapes me. I'm gonna have to ask Candy about this. I don't remember if this was baby Alyosha or baby Lunia, because they are extremely similar when they are children. I don't remember. I drew the picture first and I had one character in mind, and I don't remember if it ended up being that person or the other. I'm pretty sure that it's Lunia, but oh, I'm getting a message live. It is Lunia. It's Lunia. Yes, Candy was listening to me recording the voiceover. She said that this is baby Lunia. So yes, so it's not the dad of these two characters that you've seen before, but it's the granddad of the two characters you've seen before. And that's really about it. I just wanted to draw him being really chubby and cute and sweet because he's actually very not necessarily cunning, but he ends up being a really good strategist and fighter, military person, a general. So I just wanted to draw him when he was cute and chubby, and I wanted to show just how similar he was to his son Alyosha that eventually he has later on in life, and they're both really adorable. Next, we have these post-it notes. I think that these were little post-its that I drew really quickly on that were following Family Line by Conan Gray. I would like to make an animatic of this song, but every time I try to think of how I would want to structure it, I just have too many different ideas for the composition, and then I never end up picking any of them. This is the continuation of that, and this is the colored version of Baby Lunia. This was a terrible idea. I wanted to color the face with the markers, and I wanted to try and have a better approach with markers, but I then wanted to make something softer for the background with colored pencils, and this was a terrible idea. He looks cursed compared to how he was in the sketch, so terrible. Would not recommend, would not do it again. Okay, this is Misha and Farron again. Misha and Farron. They are just... I didn't know exactly how I wanted the setting to be. This is either them at Misha's estate, so at his grandfather's estate with his beloved wife, or they are at somebody else's estate, just going to visit them, and they are sitting on their own, conversing and being cute with one another because they'd rather sit and enjoy each other's company rather than talking to the people that are sitting there. They are a very strong couple. They are very cute together. Misha is aware of the fact that he's the eldest son, even though he's really nice about it and he tries not to worry anybody with his burdens. Him and Farron are a really cute team together. She's very supportive of him and he's very supportive of her, and they're just a nice, healthy, good relationship for that time period, which we stan. Then there are these two. So these two are part of Dynasty. They are part of Lessa's family line, but they are off to the side. So they are a different branch of Lessa's family line. So we have Aeschylus on one side, and then we have Dristan. So Dristan is a prince, and he is a prince with no lineage, so he has nobody that comes after him. He has no brothers, he has one sister, but I am yet to figure out exactly the positioning of his sister after his line. And Aeschylus comes from a family of knights and noblemen, so he ends up becoming a knight for Dristan, and they end up being together, but of course this is frowned upon. But regardless of that, I don't think that Dristan really cares about it. They end up not really continuing the line because a war breaks out between Dristan's kingdom and a different one, and unfortunately it doesn't necessarily end well for them. So I try to mostly always draw them happy and together because I cannot handle the idea of them being sad. It's needed for the plot, but I still feel terrible whenever I think about it. Then there is Nikolai and Lessa. Again, this goes with the discourse that I was having earlier, how much I was yapping earlier about the situation between Lessa and his own dad, just what type of relationship they had, because ever since I had written out the original script for Lessa's story, he has a very rocky relationship with his dad, but then we saw them in The Sims and everything was cute, so we were starting to rewrite their relationship, and I thought it was really adorable that he kept going to him and cuddling him and picking him up, and I was just really softened by this. I couldn't really handle it. This is Heliodorus's colors. I don't have a lot of characters with heterochromia with two different colored eyes. I try to not avoid it, but I'm very careful with what characters I give it to, and since it had been a long while that I hadn't given it to anyone, I gave it to Heliodorus because I thought it would be a really cute touch to make him a little bit more recognizable, and I don't regret it. I think it looks really good on him. Tatsiano, so the 19th of July is my birthday, and Tatsiano shares this little fact with me because when I had originally drawn him when I was 12, he used to be a male version of myself. There was this trend going on DeviantArt and Tumblr back in the day of creating a male version of yourself, and eventually he became naturally his own person, and he has his own passions and his own story and everything, but I still thought that him having the same birthday as me was cute, and him sharing one of my favorite cakes with me was cute, and so I kept it. And obviously my birthday was kind of hectic. I wasn't really in the house for that long, and so I just decided to draw something quick and fast because I was trying to draw daily, and so I decided to celebrate his birthday as well as my own. Now there is this picture of Daniel and Patrick. This picture alone makes me ecstatic to do the next sketchbook tour because I redrew it entirely in the next sketchbook from a different angle, and it is so much better. This one, truly, this sketchbook should just be called I Am Unable to Draw Daniel and Patrick and do them justice because honestly, they deserve so much better. This was supposed to be based on a scene of Daniel and Patrick visiting visiting Daniel's family, so visiting his uncle Orif, and them stopping in the bathroom to just have a hug and sort of recharge. But it just didn't come out well. So usually you can see that I just leave the backgrounds to have really rough lines, and I don't erase the undersketch when I think that a picture is just not worth continuing because I didn't like it for some reason. There's like 3 steps. This is step 1. Step 2 is keeping all the lines like this, and step 3 is doing all of the hatching when I have time. All right. This is a picture of Luther and Ilya. They are 2 vampire characters. Their story is a little bit intricate. Ilya is shunned by his family. However, he is called back to his grandfather's mansion after his grandfather has passed away. And when he comes back to his grandfather's mansion, he finds it to be inhabited by a group of strange gentlemen. And he slowly starts to realize that said group of gentlemen is actually made up of vampires. And the story, even though it has a quote-unquote funny premise, aka Ilya going back to his grandfather's mansion and somewhat renovating it while being a chronically depressed person, ends up being quite interesting and quite loving, because as Ilya is starting to renovate the house and the villa and starts to accept the terrible relationship that he's had with his relatives ever since his grandfather has passed, he slowly starts to know more about these vampires and about himself. And as he tries to put together some adjustments for the house, as he starts to heal the house, he slowly starts to heal himself, and naturally his depression doesn't go away. But at least his grief is heard, and he can just slowly let out this part of himself that he had sealed within his heart for a long time. And we weren't sure just who he would end up with. There wasn't necessarily a choice in the beginning. That's why all of the vampires had their own personality. But Luther is what I would consider the canon choice. Obviously, if it were to be a game and if it's going to turn out in the type of visual novel that we want it to turn into, I suppose that there could be choices, but Luther is definitely the end game. Like, it's who he should end up with, but everybody can have different opinions, except for those that are like already a couple maybe, but that's a whole different situation that we shouldn't be talking about right now. Solomon and Vey, I don't know what happened here. I don't know what I was thinking, that I just drew his head to look like a lemon and that like he just completely got shrunk. I don't know what I was thinking. Again, when I'm not in the house or when I was somewhere else, I don't know, I guess I completely lost my ability to do proportions because the other pictures so far weren't too bad. But the 25th of July is Mad Vey's birthday, and they are the protagonists of Happiness Is You, again, the webcomic that we have and that we are reworking on. And I just wanted to draw a little cute picture of the two of them celebrating because they're cute and they deserve more love, and sometimes I'm really harsh on them, which is not nice. I really like this picture. I actually remember sitting down and not getting up until I was done with this, and I was satisfied enough, and I erased the background like 6 times. But this is Yeva and Leonid, and they are sitting outside the patio of one of the many restaurants in the rich part of Rishka. So like I said, their city of Rishka is divided into 2 sections, one where the people that originally inhabited it lived, so the people like Yeva live in, and the other one that is occupied by those that have occupied the land, so the people that Leonid is technically a part of. And I just wanted to show them going on this cute little date and talking, because there's a specific scene in my mind with these two where she would probably be questioned as to why she's even sitting here, but he would probably step in and defend her, which I think is really nice. And it's just another piece of the puzzle as to why she likes him, and as to why she thinks that he is worth her time, and as to why she thinks that they are okay in dating each other. And that's the main gist of it. Over here instead we have baby Aristeas. I had written a paragraph about child Aristeas, and it is somewhat based off Apollo and the Python, as well as Apollo and Niobe's children, but I decided that his weapon of choice be the bow and arrow, and all of the child gods during the first trial of their existence have to go through specific missions, quote unquote, and his is to eliminate specific enemies of the pantheon, I suppose. And I wanted to show him at the age where he was doing said missions, because sometimes when you're writing the lore for a character, even the lore that you were basing off of like a character's religion or a character's mythology, it's hard to always picture things in setting until you really see them, until you draw them. So even though there are myths of child heroes, I mean, there's literally Heracles that kills the serpents when he is a child. Sometimes it is good to take a step back and look at the character at the age that they're supposed to be, because every time I write about Aristeas, I see him in his ageless young adult age rather than his child stage. So like I did for the teen version of him, I was trying to draw the child preteen version of him and see just how he would look, and I think that he's kind of cute. I am quite fond of him, actually. Oh, this is really interesting. This is a coloring sheet that Candy made. So I didn't draw this. This was a birthday picture that Candy drew, basing it off some Sims screenshot that we took of Lucifer and Lilith. And they were being really adorable, going on dates and doing these cute little things together. And they also have quite a few children together. And she just put together this really adorable collage of pictures for me to color, because I really enjoy coloring traditionally, like I was saying. And so I just stuck it in my sketchbook after I was done coloring most of it, and I thought that it was really, really adorable, and it was a super fun idea, and actually something that is quite nice for any of your friends. If you're an artist and you know that your friend is maybe quite fond of coloring but doesn't really like to draw their own pictures, or they usually revert back to coloring pages, it could be a really, really cute gift, actually. Now we have more Lucifer and Lilith. I wanted this to be sort of like a depiction of them, more like the classical type of depiction that you have in the theology, where he is an angel and she is technically not. I wanted this to be more of like the version of the myth that we have instead, where he is watching over her and he ends up falling for her as he sees her, and so they end up being together. And this is just a painting that they draw of them after the story becomes more known and is passed down through the various centuries. Then we have this picture of Aristeas. This one was a very specific picture of Aristeas that I wanted to make, and this is Aristeas in his, the word that I can think of is feral or unhinged. This isn't necessarily the right word, but as you can see, he has the moon behind him, which kinda almost looks like a halo behind his head, and this is after something really bad happens between him and the god of the moon, or rather something really bad happens to the god of the moon, and Aristeas grows really, really, really angered by this, and he starts to be upset, and he no longer works the same as he used to work before this thing happened. And I wanted this to slowly show his descent into emptiness, not necessarily even anger, just emptiness. This is Zakar. He is unrelated to Aristeas or Dynasty or Kalvekanim. He's actually related to Dome. He is one of the people that lives in Sector 7 with Daniel and his uncle, because the world of Dome, the city in which they are in, the country that they're in, is divided in sectors going downwards, inspired by the Divine Comedy. If any of you is familiar, I'm sure that that'll make more sense. But he is actually one of the people that lives in Sector 7, and he ends up getting together with one of Daniel's best friend's sisters, who actually had a childhood crush on him when they were younger, but instead ends up with this really lovely boy who has very much of an accountant energy, should I say. I think he's really cute. I think he's really nice, and I really like them together. I like that they have their little happy ending as a family, and this was just me jotting down how he would look like. This is Aite, the goddess of discord. She is part of the pantheon with Aristeas and Danaus and all of the other gods, but she is particularly dangerous because as the goddess of discord, she's also the goddess of manipulation and the goddess of part
of people's memories. She's not necessarily the goddess of memory, but she can definitely alter them through the idea of manipulation, which I think is a really interesting concept. Sometimes I know that we are used to Greek mythology with gods with good and bad intentions, so she's definitely not just somebody with only bad intentions, but it is interesting to step back for a minute and think of all of the elements that could go wrong in specific powers and specific abilities of said deities. I think it's really interesting. This is just a quick portrait of Josephine. I was starting to like this style of drawing and portrait. This was based on 1940s posters as well as the persona art style. And I thought that it was really cute. And this is actually Josephine. I'd already drawn Josephine before, and I don't think I've ever made a sketchbook tour with her in it. But I decided to renew her entirely, and she is actually Daniel's best friend's wife. So there's Ray, and she really likes this girl Josephine. She's actually a military nurse, while Daniel and Ray are military personnel. And this was again just a reference for her because we didn't have one yet, and I actually need to color this because she's quite cute, and I am yet to do a better reference than this one, so I should probably just color this. Again, Lucifer and Lilith, this is a different version of them. This is more like the modern version of them rather than the one you've seen before, because as you can see, she has the two wings, the pair of wings that he gifted her, and he has his two pairs back, which is not necessarily how he was depicted before and how he was, but he's happy like this. He's happy to be with her. He's happy that she is his wife, and I just wanted to draw a continuation of the picture that I had drawn before. Oh gods, okay. This spread is such a failure, and I am so sad. This was supposed to be a redraw of the picture I had made with Aeschylus and Tristan that you've seen before, but it just turned out so terrible, so ugly. The older version is so much better. I had been going on a little bit of a high compared to the other days, and this is where I hit a whole new low. The 5th and the 6th of August were just not it. This is also not a good day. We were working on another set of characters, and this one is called Avel. He is cousins with Lessa's grandpa, but it's just not working. I wanted to show how he looked like back in the day, in the 1950s, but he's just too similar to Lessa, and the entire proportioning of this picture leaves a lot to be desired. I wanted it to be a similar style to the one I did with Josephine, but clearly this was not a good drawing day because it did not come out. Okay, these two on the other hand turned out really cute. I wish that I had put a little bit more effort onto baby Daniel in the picture here with Orif, because I think that I got Orif really well in this drawing, so his uncle and him, but I think that Daniel could have come out a little bit cuter, and he didn't, which again was my mistake. I didn't have a lot of time to do this because this was my name day, the 7th of August, so I had to go out to eat, I think, and so I didn't have a lot of time to do this. But I really like how Orif came out, and this looks like a picture that they would take while at home with Yeva, just as a little keepsake of the time that they're spending together. And I decided to make this into a mini set. So the set of him with child Danny, the one of Yeva, so the mother with her baby boy, so Yeva with Daniel when he's a little bit older, kind of going off of the picture that I had drawn of her holding him as a baby when I really liked and enjoyed drawing it, but coloring it had been a little bit of a mess, so I decided to draw them together when he's slightly older, so when he's like 5 or 6. And then I decided to continue with some of the flashbacks. So I drew teenage Orif, so Daniel's uncle and Yeva's older brother, with her when she is the same age as Daniel. And you can clearly tell that I put a lot more effort, or rather I had more time in drawing her because she definitely came out a lot cuter than Daniel did here, but I do really like how he came out here. I think that this is definitely more accurate to how he looks like. Even the hair came out a little bit better, and this one I quite like. Maybe I didn't fully draw Orif the way that he was supposed to be drawn here when he was younger, but I didn't have a full-on reference yet, and so I just kind of went with my instincts, and I think that Yeva turned out super cute, and she's really adorable, and I like them a lot. Then we have this picture that I made for Damien's birthday. This picture has quite a few characters in it. There is Damien, Claudia, Lessa, Dayan, Matvey, and Solomon from Happiness Is You. And they are just all friends during Dynasty, so in the prequel of Kave Kanem and in the prequel of Ghost Waltz. So I just wanted to draw them all together celebrating Damien's birthday, which happens to be on St. Lawrence's night, so the 10th of August. And there isn't a lot to say about it, just because I wanted a cozy pictures with all of them being friends and all of them just being cute, and that's exactly what I did. I don't fully like it. I think that some of them could have come out a little better, but overall, the coziness of it is what I like. Now we have Orif and Nadini again. I wanted to draw a full picture of Orif and Nadini because the one that I had drawn before is a little bit fast and quick, and it didn't really have a background, whereas I was slowly starting to discover my love for backgrounds at this time, which I found is really weird, but I still feel that way, and it's been a little bit over 6 months, so I think that it's here to stay. And I just wanted to make it seem like they are sitting in the streets of Valea, which is the city they live in, and somebody snapped a picture of them together while they're being really cute. This is another character from Esmeralda, and dear gosh, I do not remember his name. I will put it in the notes when I find it, because I'm still working on their family line, so I don't fully remember, but I have it written in my notes. But he comes from the kingdom of Gredren, which is the kingdom that Gadriel serves. And he's actually a very nice person. He's very gentle and really good, and he is the heir to the throne. He's actually not the eldest son, but his brother is really he's unfit to rule, so he's the one that most likely will be taking the throne of Gredren after him. And I was just doing a little reference of him because we were working on Gadriel's lore a little bit, and so I wanted to put faces to the names. And ironically, now I have a face and I didn't write the name because I am silly and a little bit stupid. Okay. We're getting to the end of the sketchbook, so these two are actually very ironic pictures. So remember how earlier on I had drawn the picture of Daniel that was a redraw of his reference, and I was like, I don't like this. I think that it's a little bit better, but it's still not quite hitting how he's supposed to look like. And so I ended up drawing them back to back again. I tried to redraw his original reference, and this is absolutely hideous. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking with his head being so small and him being so squished. I think I didn't really quite take the measurements of the paper. I remember that when I drew the undersketch, his hairline was like above the one that I drew, and so everything was a mess. But this one I am finally happy with. It's not perfect by any means, but goodness me, it really paid off to draw this for like 2.5 hours of just trying to get all of his little features right and all of the little placements right. Again, is it perfect? Absolutely not, but it's definitely a lot better than the one I had originally redrawn, and it's definitely similar to what I see him as in my head. I even color this digitally, and I will put a picture of it just to show you how he's supposed to look like, because I was finally happy that after 3 years I was able to draw him properly, like what had happened with Leonidas, because I still think that Leo's is a very cute reference. This one is somewhat, finally I got to a decent reference after years. One thing that I noticed is that in the pencil sketch he looks serious, but not necessarily like he's smiling, but in the colored version he looks like he's smiling, which is a little bit of an interesting trivia fact. And then Sorry, I'm just gonna cover this. Maybe in editing I will put something over this because it's just my thoughts. We have Heliodorus again. I wanted to try and draw him a little bit differently. I have seen some artists do this, of like the hair not being filled in and having little hatches just in the inner color, and doing the lines on the outside that were very thick. So I was just trying to maybe see if it would work for me as well. So there isn't much to say about this picture, just that I was trying to see if I could get my style to work with this. But overall, I think that this sketchbook was enough of a roller coaster to maybe entertain some of you for a little bit. I have 2 more sketchbooks after this, I think, that I have finished, because I am on sketchbook 58 right now. I have some that come before this. I'm not sure if I will show all of them, if it would be something that you guys are interested in. But all in all, I hope that you had a fun time watching my sketchbook tour, if you did get to the end. And I hope that maybe you drew along, or you just listened to me yap and ramble to characters that I really love, because it's a fun thing to do. But yes, all in all, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you stick around for the next one. And I am sending hugs to all of you, and I hope you're having a great day, night, afternoon, wherever it is that you are in the world. Bye.